Hello, Marty DeGrama here. Welcome to my channel, Crypto Data and News. I share the crypto news of the day. If you enjoy what you're seeing, give me a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. Enjoy the video.
Let's take a look at Bitcoin and the recent price action. Well, first of all, if you don't know, this was the point where the SEC delayed the ETF decision. People reacted in a very bearish manner, and we got this pretty big fall here down towards the bottom. The low we got here was actually right at 6,000. And we've also seen the price establish some form of support in this area where we've seen the price dip down once, twice, three, four, almost 5 times here, and that's the $6,188 area. So those two are support lines, of course. And this has, like we talked about in the last video, actually formed a pattern which is called a head and shoulders, or an inverse head and shoulders in this case, because it's the inverse way here. And I think first I actually put the inverse head and shoulders like this. I think that it's not accurate to put it like this because I actually think recent price action would suggest that this is a more accurate way of putting out this neckline here. If this is an inverse head and shoulders, we don't really know if it's going to play out like one. But in this case, we do have a shoulder, we have the head, and then we have a shoulder. And it's not a beautiful pattern, but this inverse head and shoulders pattern is something that I'm watching as a potential reversal pattern here. We've been seeing lower lows all the way down here, lower lows, and what we're possibly forming here is a higher low in relation to this low here, which is the which has formed this inverse head and shoulders in that case. But we're just gonna have to watch this as this goes. Before I go over to the bigger time frame, I just want to quickly mention that I think that in this tight range here, I think that we can see that the bullish volume is the volume that seems to have the upper hand here. When we saw this red candle here, followed by bigger green volume, and we see the green candles here are above the average here. So it is possible that the bulls are down here just waiting to kind of make a counter move against this bearish downtrend that we've had. Possibly the bulls have actually created this inverse head and shoulders here while battling the bears. So this is something that we should be watching. And if we were to see a fall down and the bears were to win this battle here, then of course the big support line that we need to hold as bulls is of course the previous low of 5,774. So if we see a bear break, then if we go through the $6,000 level, which should be a major support line, which it has been a major player as a level before, so it could very well act as support just like it did here. But if it fails, then the last hope for the bulls here is of course the low we got there. So that's what I'm watching in the bearish case if we do see a fall down here, which is not impossible, of course. But let's go to the daily and just take a look at what we are looking for. So if you are a bull here, what you want to see is of course for us to, after these consecutive lower lows, which we've seen here, would be to form a higher low. That would be one of the biggest things that could happen here for a sign of a trend reversal, because as long as we establish lower lows and lower highs, which we do have here, and we actually have another lower high right here. So it's really important for the bulls to establish this higher low here in order for the trend to actually start to shifting to the upside. And so that's what I'm watching. And if the bulls are not able to defend this level and we actually see us all going down below 6K and below the previous low, establish a lower low again, then this would be so bearish, and this would definitely be a very bad sign. And as long as we establish lower highs and lower lows, then the overall trend should be downwards. So that is so right now we are in a very critical moment here for the Bitcoin price overall. It doesn't really matter if you're a bull or a bear. Right now, really, it's a big deal right now. And actually, if we bring out the RSI and the stochastic RSI, what we were looking out for actually happened. That we actually found support in the 30 level, which we actually were expecting, because we are in this bullish box that we've been talking about. So that was nice to see. And like I mentioned, also we might possibly have a bullish divergence here, where we have lower low here, but in the RSI we actually have a higher low. And I know this looks really bad, it's very hard to draw in these small time frames here, but you get the picture. We have a higher low while we have a low low here. So that's a bullish divergence in an inverse head and shoulders, which should be a good sign. And if the bulls are able to break up here, then of course we do have the stochastic RSI right here telling us that there is momentum to be picked up here. And if these lines start to move up here, then of course that's going to indicate that momentum is going in favor of the bulls. But we haven't crossed the 20 line here yet, so that's something that I'm watching. That could indicate that the bulls are ready to make a counter move here, because I mean we've been looking for a bounce here, and the bounce has not been here to be seen. We haven't seen any reversal signs. We haven't seen any double bottoms. We haven't seen any inverse head and shoulders. And this might be one of the most red areas in regard to candles in consecutive rows here that I've seen in a very long time. So I mean, it's only logical that at some point we are going to see a bounce, and I think that for the first time right now we actually do see a reversal sign, actually accompanied by these critical points in the RSI and the stochastic RSI. Alright, I think that's enough technical analysis. Let's go over to the crypto and other news of this video, or whatever you want to call it. Let's just start off with this guy, Kim.com. And if you don't know who he is, Kim.com is like an online entrepreneur. He was one of the leading entrepreneurs in the .com boom, and he actually changed his name to .com in 2005. I wouldn't generally take financial advice from this guy, but if we want to take a look at what he has said about the US debt, I think it's actually quite interesting. So what he said is, invest in Bitcoin before US debt spirals out of control. And so he got my attention right there, because it seems like he actually knows something about this. So let's take a look at this. Controversial internet pirate and Bitcoin advocate Kim.com is urging everyone to invest in gold and Bitcoin because the US government is adding $1 trillion to its debt every year, which will never be paid. The debt will destroy the US and create a global economic collapse, .com argued in a tweet. So this is the tweet that he tweeted, and he said the following: $1 trillion in additional US government debt per year. US spending is funded by lenders who will never get paid. US empire will collapse, followed by a worldwide economic collapse. Shift your US dollar into gold and Bitcoin ASAP before US dollar becomes toilet paper. And I think that we can agree that Kim.com knows what's up. And if you don't know what a deficit is, let me just tell you in very simple terms. Let's say I make $5,000 a month, and that is my income. I make $5,000 every month, and let's say I spend $5,000 every month as well. I spend, so all the money I get in, I spend. And so I don't have any money left after income and expenditures. And what I can do is I can take loans in order for me to spend even more. So maybe I borrow $2,000 every month to spend on groceries and to spend on my Netflix bill and for whatever. That means I now spend $7,000 every month, and I make $5,000 every month. And that extra $2,000, that is my deficit. That's the money I spend more than my income. That is that's deficit spending. You spend money that you don't have. You borrow from the future to get rewarded today. And that is what the US government is doing in a massive scale. And let's just take a look at the what they say here: deficit to rise. So the US deficit is exactly what I just said. They spend more than they make in income. That means they borrow money into existence to spend on things that they shouldn't be able to afford. And that means the debt is ever rising all the time. And just like I've been talking about on my channel, every dollar borrowed into existence needs to be paid back plus interest. That means that the deficit is not only bad because you're building up debts, but the debt is ever growing because of the interest that is due on every single dollar. And let's take a look at this. The deficit is expected to hit $793 billion at the end of the year and approach $1 trillion in 2019. Interest payments to service the debt are forecast to become the fastest rising yearly expenditure. In 30 years, servicing the debt will outpace expenditures on defense and social security. And these are already very large expenditures. And I think that we can all agree that this is not sustainable. And this is one of the reasons why, the economy is in very bad shape. And let's go to the next guy calling for a big stock market crash. And this guy I would actually listen to more than Kim.com, because this guy actually is a very, very well-known entrepreneur and very well-known investor. And this article says the following: Rich Dad Poor Dad author is bullish on Bitcoin, says US dollar is a scam. This guy, Robert Kiyosaki, very famous for writing this Rich Dad Poor Dad book. And he says, like I said, he's bullish on Bitcoin, but says the US dollar is a scam. This is a quote by Robert Kiyosaki here. The US dollar is a scam. I think the dollar is toast because gold and silver and cyber currency are going to take it out. The US dollar is gone. In the year 2000, there was one currency, the US dollar. It was called the reserve currency of the world, and then came Bitcoin, or cyber currency. And he went on to say this: in my new book, I talk about 3 types of money today. God's money, which is gold and silver, government's money, which is fiat currency, then there is the people's money, which is cyber currency on the blockchain technology. Gold is a hedge, and I am expecting a collapse on the system. And this is not the first time Kiyosaki has mentioned that he is well aware of the world economic health. He has recently said this: Kiyosaki is no stranger to such opinions, having previously stated in an interview that another crash that will be the biggest of all is on its way following the crashes of 2000 and 2008. So it seems like Robert Kiyosaki is well aware that the financial system is very, very corrupt, very rigged. It's a big pyramid scheme, and he seems to be well aware of that.